My ex-boyfriend was sitting in the CEO's chair at my job interview. The HR manager asked, "So, what is your 5-year career plan?" My head was spinning with memories of my ex, and before I could stop myself, the words just slipped out. To be the boss's wife. If I'm a sinner, let God punish me, don't make me run into my ex-boyfriend during a job interview. The Apex Group conference room. My head had been buzzing ever since I walked in. Sitting in the center seat across from me was my ex-boyfriend. The nameplate in front of him read, in gleaming letters, CEO. And the position I was interviewing for was executive assistant to the CEO. Vicky Shaw, my ex. The pretty boy I used to support, was the CEO of a publicly traded company. The whole thing felt completely surreal. I'd met Vicky while traveling abroad, and we hit it off when we realized we both lived in Westwood City. Back home, one thing led to another, and the mutual attraction between two adults turned into a relationship. I can still clearly picture the day he showed up at my tiny apartment, suitcase in hand. His eyes crinkled into little crescent moons as he stepped forward and hugged me. "Rachel, I've come to throw myself at your mercy." And just like that, he squeezed his way into my cramped little life. Vicky was, in all honesty, the perfect lover, handsome, thoughtful, and an amazing cook. In the beginning, it was incredibly sweet. After moving in with me, Vicky was unemployed and stayed home all day. My salary wasn't high, but it was enough to keep the two of us from starving. In the end, the reason we broke up was still about money. Vicky was a guy with strong appetites. Night after night of passion. It got to the point where I couldn't focus at work. I realized if things kept on like that, I was going to lose my job. Forget supporting him, I'd barely be able to support myself. So, I decisively broke up with him. He stared at me in utter disbelief, his eyes turning red as he asked, "Why?" I couldn't look him in the eye. My pride got the better of me. I couldn't admit that I was afraid I couldn't afford to keep him. So I gave him a completely bullshit reason. "I like someone else. Being with you was just for fun." Just for fun. When I got back to my apartment that night, there was no trace of Vicky left. For the first time in a long time, no one was waiting for me with a hot meal. It was as if he had never been there at all. I somehow managed to muddle my way through the first few interview questions. "HR, so, what is your 5-year career plan?" My mind was flooded with memories of Vicky. On impulse, the words just tumbled out. To be the boss's wife. The words hung in the air. The room fell completely silent. Pfft, someone was trying desperately to hold back a laugh. I snapped back to reality, realizing what I'd just said, and my eyes shot toward Vicky. His face was blank, but a contemptuous smirk played on his lips. "Trying to sleep your way to the top?" Mortified, I waved my hands frantically. "Just kill me now." What was I even saying? I meant, I want to prioritize the company's interests and treat the company like my own family. Humph. And with that one cold snort from Vicky, the interview was over. I have no idea why I still received a job offer from Apex Group. Was it possible Vicky wanted revenge? Was he going to make my life hell? All my worries vanished the moment I saw my new salary offer. It was double what I used to make. You can hold a grudge against anyone, but you don't hold a grudge against money. My first day on the job was pure agony. Thanks to my interview performance, my reputation had preceded me. The office was buzzing with gossip before I even arrived. One colleague even came up to tease me directly. "Rachel, once you're the boss's wife, don't forget to give your pals a leg up. You can do it. You guys have nothing better to do." Everyone scattered like birds, leaving me to face Vicky alone. A bunch of traitors. Vicky gestured with his eyes for me to follow him into his office. Walking behind him, I shamelessly admired his physique. The high-quality white shirt clung to his broad shoulders and narrow waist, and his perfectly tailored slacks covered a pair of long, hard legs that only I truly knew. I swallowed hard, the sound a little too loud in the quiet hallway. Thankfully, Vicky only paused for a second before continuing on. Honestly, I regretted breaking up with him not long after I'd done it. It was a classic case of not knowing what you've got till it's gone. Once you've had a taste of the good stuff, it's hard to go back to being a nun, especially when the good stuff was that exceptional. No wonder I was breaking out like a teenager despite being well past that age. As my executive assistant, I expect you to know that your phone cannot be turned off, 24/7. You must be available whenever I call. Inside, I was cursing him out, but on the outside, I was all smiles. Of course, Mr. Shaw. What about overtime pay? Vicky glanced up at me, a wicked grin spreading across his face. The company doesn't neglect its hard-working employees. As long as you perform well, bonuses and the like won't be an issue. Damn capitalists. Suddenly, I didn't feel so bad about what I'd done to him in the past. Vicky's long, slender fingers idly flipped through a document. Mr. Shaw, if there's nothing else, I'll get back to my desk. One more thing. Please refrain from spreading baseless rumors. Me? You may go. That evening, Vicky took me to a cocktail party. A toast to you, Mr. Shaw. I hope we'll have many opportunities to collaborate in the future, a pot-bellied, middle-aged man said, smiling obsequiously at Vicky. Vicky, playing the part of the superior, just gave a slight nod and a tight smile. He pushed his wine glass toward me. Taking the hint, I picked it up. Mr. Davis, Mr. Shaw isn't drinking tonight. I'll take this one for him. I raised the glass and downed it in one go. A steady stream of people came to toast Vicky, and I took on every single one of them. My tolerance for alcohol is actually pretty decent. But thanks to the dry toast Vicky had gifted me that morning, I'd had no appetite for lunch. With nothing in my stomach all day and a lot of alcohol, my stomach was starting to rebel. Mr. Shaw, a toast. Here came another one. I pressed my left hand hard against my stomach. I mourned silently. Resigned, I reached for the glass. Vicky plucked the glass from my hand and drank it himself. Then he turned and started chatting cheerfully with someone else. Okay, I guess my services were no longer needed. I took the opportunity to stuff some food into my mouth, and my stomach immediately felt much better. But as a new hire still on probation, I bravely stepped up again to block more drinks for Vicky. For some reason, though, his expression just got darker and darker. After the party ended, my steps were unsteady as I followed behind him. Just as I was about to fall, Vicky caught me. I slurred, thanks. You still live in the same place? I nodded with a goofy grin. Vicky let out a sigh, barely audible. You haven't grown up at all. A Bentley sped through the night, pulling into a run-down old apartment complex. Is your boyfriend home? I blinked, looking at him innocently. Aren't you right here? Vicky pushed my face away. We broke up. He said that with the tone of a jilted lover. Suddenly, I burst into tears and started singing at the top of my lungs. I will survive. Oh, as long as I know how to love, I know I'll stay alive. My caterwauling drew stares from passers-by. Having had enough, Vicky swept me up into his arms and carried me upstairs. I didn't make it easy for him, squirming and groping him randomly. Where did your washboard abs go? And why do you have a pimple? Vicky's voice was hoarse. Stop moving. I continued to do as I pleased, even giving the pimple a hard squeeze. Vicky let out a muffled grunt, shifted his grip, and threw me over his shoulder. Once inside, Vicky tossed me onto the bed like a sack of old rags. In the struggle, several buttons on my blouse had come undone without me noticing. An expanse of pale skin was now on full display. Vicky's body grew hot against his will. Out of habit, I started trying to undress on the bed, but I couldn't undo the clasp on my bra. Click. A cool hand unfastened it for me. The familiar touch sent a shiver down my spine. I turned and wrapped my arms around his neck, studying his face closely and murmuring, Vicky? Wait, am I having another dirty dream? A small smile tugged at the corner of Vicky's mouth. He leaned down, his magnetic, low voice whispering in my ear. Do you want me? My earlobes flushed red. My misty eyes blinked once, and I gave a slight nod. You asked for this. The man immediately leaned in, deftly parting my lips and invading every inch of my territory. He took and took, conquering and claiming. I felt my strength drain away, leaving me limp on the bed. Let's get you in the shower. No, you don't need a shower in a dream. Ignoring my protests, he carried me into the bathroom. Vicky turned on the shower, and soon, hot steam enveloped us both. He pressed me against the wall, and the cold tiles made me flinch. Without another word, he bit my lower lip, his large hand caressing my slender waist. Our breathing grew ragged and out of sync once more. Morning sunlight streamed through the window, falling on the two figures tangled together in bed. The sharp ring of a cell phone shattered the peaceful scene. Someone was shaking my body hard. I impatiently swatted their hand away, grumbling, "Leave me alone." But the person persisted, shaking me even more vigorously than before. Your phone. A man's voice? I was instantly awake, bolting upright. Vicky tossed the phone to me and started getting dressed. Bang! The door slammed shut, and Vicky's back disappeared from view. Only then did it all come rushing back. So, yesterday wasn't a dream. Remembering the intense scenes from the night before, I sat there giggling to myself for a long time. The phone was still ringing relentlessly. I picked it up, and my smile froze. The caller ID read, "Hubby." I rushed to the office in a panic. I stormed toward the CEO's office, talking as I opened the door. Vicky, you left in such a hurry this morning. You have to listen to me. The three people inside all turned to stare at me in unison. Mr. Vice President, Director, so sorry to interrupt. Please, continue. I started to back away slowly. Stay, Vicky commanded. I froze obediently. Let's leave it at that for now. You two may go. As the VP and the director left, they gave me a long, meaningful look. And we totally get it kind of expression. I knew I had screwed up again. I could only stand there, at a loss. Vicky yanked at his tie in frustration. Rachel, let's just pretend last night never happened. He must have misunderstood. I hurried to explain. Actually, He cut me off. If you want some kind of compensation, just name your price. But don't get any other ideas. I struggled to process his words. You think I'm only here for your money? Vicky walked forlornly to the floor-to-ceiling window, staring down at the traffic below. Rachel, I think we're just from two different worlds. Tears welled in my eyes, but I fought to keep my voice steady. Don't worry, Mr. Shaw. From now on, I'll know my place. I won't dare to have any delusional fantasies. With that, I bolted from the office. I hid in the bathroom and cried for a while. Gradually, I calmed down. And then it hit me. All things considered, I hadn't lost out. It was like I got a top-tier gigolo for free. If I ever let myself get emotional over Vicky again, I'd be the world's biggest fool. For a while, the office was filled with all sorts of rumors about Vicky and me. Meanwhile, we, the subjects of the gossip, were acting more distant than regular colleagues. After observing us for a while, everyone came to a conclusion. I had been dumped by Vicky. That was the nice version, of course. The uglier rumors claimed I had tried to seduce him, been brutally rejected, and publicly humiliated. I just listened to it all for my own amusement. Little did they know, I was the one who had once dumped Vicky. But that wasn't what was really bothering me. The most stressful thing was the constant, frantic calls from my mom. Your cousin is getting married this weekend. If you come home without a boyfriend this time, I'm telling you, don't even bother coming back. It's too embarrassing. Before I could even respond, she hung up. Staring at the dark screen of my phone, I sighed. My cousin, who was 5 years younger than me, was getting married. It seemed to have really gotten to my mom. I heard her fiancé came from a well-off family. My aunt and my mom had never gotten along. I could only imagine how much my aunt had been flaunting this in my mom's face. The frequency of her recent calls told me she'd been taking a lot of heat. If I really didn't show up, my mom would absolutely skin me alive. But where was I supposed to find a boyfriend on such short notice? As I was worrying, a figure flashed past me. I shouted, "Kevin." He flinched and slowly turned around. "Rachel? What can I do for you?" He was the perfect candidate. Tall, and looked honest. With a little polish, he could probably fool everyone. Kevin grew uncomfortable under my intense stare. "What's wrong?" Kevin was Vicky's driver. I often rode in his car on business trips. During the time we spent waiting for Vicky, our conversations had evolved from polite small talk to jointly complaining about our boss behind his back. He was the only one who believed there was nothing going on between Vicky and me. The things I said about Vicky were definitely not safe for television. I pulled him into an empty break room. After I painfully parted with $2,000, Kevin finally agreed to be my fake boyfriend. We came out of the break room smiling. And, as luck would have it, we ran straight into Vicky. Vicky's sharp gaze darted back and forth between us. "What were you two doing in there?" Kevin scrambled to hide behind me. He was acting like we'd actually done something. But even if we had, it was none of his business. What right did he have to judge us? "Mr. Shaw, it's our lunch break. I don't think we need to report our personal activities to you." Vicky actually laughed, but it was a bitter sound. "Is that how a married woman should behave?" Kevin suddenly jumped. "Rachel, you have a husband? Then why did you ask me to be your fake boyfriend?" I pressed my fingers to my forehead. This was getting more and more tangled. Under Vicky's interrogation, Kevin spilled the entire plan. To put Kevin at ease, I finally explained the whole hubby incident. It was all a misunderstanding. My phone had broken a while back. Since I didn't have money for a new one, I started using an old one my best friend had left behind. I hadn't paid any attention to the contact names she had saved. That morning, my friend's husband had a brain fart and called me at the crack of dawn, begging me to like his social media post because he was one like away from getting a free cooking pot. That guy was a real piece of work. That evening, I had plans to meet Kevin to get him a decent outfit. But the person who showed up was Vicky. "Where's Kevin?" "I sent him to pick someone up." "Then what are you doing here?" Vicky looked a little unnatural as he muttered, "I could do it, you know." "What did you say?" "If you don't need anything, I'm leaving." I turned to go. Who wants to see their boss after work? I'd rather be at home binge watching a show. He grabbed my arm and suggested we have dinner together. Of course, I refused. He said through gritted teeth that he'd count it as overtime. I immediately brightened up and agreed. Vicky took me to a high-end restaurant. "Rachel, I really don't think having Kevin pretend to be your boyfriend is a reliable plan." I speared a large piece of steak and shoved it into my mouth without a care for appearances. This steak was so tender. "What makes you say that?" "Neither of you are actors, and you don't know each other well. Your mom will definitely sense that something is off." I nodded in agreement. "You've got a point. I actually think I'll just tell Kevin to talk less. We'll go for the strong, silent type." I was surprised Vicky was being so considerate, even giving me advice. "Hey, what were you about to say?" Vicky took a deep breath. "Nothing. Just eat." He downed half a glass of red wine in one go. Is this how rich people drink red wine now? It was a shame to see such a fine vintage go to waste, but I wouldn't dare touch it now. Because drinking leads to bad decisions. In the end, I was perfectly sober, but Vicky was drunk. When you drink red wine like it's water, even a god would get wasted. I called Kevin. "Mr. Shaw is drunk. You need to come pick him up." "Rachel, Mr. Shaw sent me to Boston for a business trip." I can't make it back. I could have cried. Vicky kept clinging to me. I gave him a good smack across the face, and the world finally went quiet. In the end, I had no choice but to haul the very drunk Vicky back to my place. Panting, I flung his arm off me, and he collapsed onto the floor. Humph. A muffled groan. I thought I had woken him up. But after waiting a moment, there was no other movement. I kicked him a couple of times out of frustration. Jerk. His back to me, Vicky was now biting his lip, his features scrunched together in pain. I sniffed myself and couldn't stand it. I grabbed my pajamas and hurried into the bathroom for a shower. Whoosh, whoosh. I stood under the spray, letting the water wash over me. Suddenly, a hard chest pressed against my back. I almost screamed. He clamped a hand over my mouth. His lips brushed against my sensitive earlobe as he whispered my name, Rachel, it's me. A shiver ran through me as I clearly felt a certain change against my back. He turned me around, possessively locking his lips on mine. He took from me relentlessly, as if punishing me for my earlier actions. The kiss grew more intense, more dominant, as if he wanted to devour me whole. Sensing I was about to suffocate, Vicky finally released my lips. You're shameless, I couldn't help but curse. Vicky chuckled lightly. There's more where that came from. He knew my body too well. Soon, all my strength was gone. I could only cling to him tightly, letting him take what he wanted. Through the haze, two long shadows moved, water splashing everywhere. When I woke up in the morning, my body felt like it had been run over by a truck. The space beside me in bed was already empty. Vicky had left me a text. Rest up today. No need to come to the office. He was just like he used to be. He was the one who did all the work, yet he was still full of energy the next day. Life really is unfair. Not knowing how to face him, I called in sick and went straight to my parents' house. My mom started nagging me the second I walked in. I shot a desperate look at my dad, but he just picked up his teacup and walked out the door, wanting no part of the drama. You really have a boyfriend? Emichim. My mom's attitude did a complete 180. Quick, tell me about him. What does he do? I described Kevin as an ambitious, responsible, and promising young man who worked directly under the CEO. In a way, my description wasn't entirely inaccurate. For the next few days, I finally had some peace. Vicky contacted me once, asking if I had gone home. I didn't reply. My feelings for him were complicated right now, and I didn't want to get my hopes up. My cousin's wedding day arrived. I stood anxiously at the entrance of the hotel, scanning the crowd. Kevin had said he was 10 minutes away, but now he was nowhere to be seen. My mom was even more anxious than I was, constantly asking if my boyfriend had arrived. She had already bragged to all our relatives. If I made her lose face, she would genuinely murder her own daughter. Damn it, Kevin, why wasn't he even answering his phone? Finally, the call went through. Hello? Where are you? The wedding's about to start, you have to get here. I'm so sorry, Rachel, I can't make it. Mr. Shaw called me in for something urgent. What? I'm really, really sorry. And with that, Kevin hung up. I stomped my foot in frustration. That bastard Vicky was definitely doing this on purpose. He knew what today was. He wanted to humiliate me. But there was no time to plot my revenge. Right now, my priority was to manage my mom's emotions. I had just sat down next to her when some tactless relative chimed in. Rachel, where's your boyfriend? Why isn't he here yet? Of course they'd bring that up. My Rachel's boyfriend is a top professional. He's very busy, probably just delayed by work, my mom boasted. I forced a couple of awkward laughs. But they wouldn't let it go. Is that so? Rachel, don't tell us he's not coming at all in the end. Maybe he's not presentable enough, so he's a no-show. Rachel, don't tell me you saw your cousin marry into a good family and just invented a boyfriend out of thin air. My aunt joined in to kick me while I was down, and the other relatives chimed in with their agreement. My lovely family was all eagerly waiting for the drama to unfold. I watched this pack of hyenas with a cold expression. My mom viciously pinched my thigh. Ow. Fine, I couldn't be cold. I forced a smile. Everyone, listen, my boyfriend is. Suddenly, there was a commotion at the entrance, and everyone's attention turned that way. A tall, impeccably dressed figure slowly came into focus. Vicky, I gasped, jumping to my feet. When Vicky saw me, he smiled and strode in my direction. He walked right up to me and put his arm intimately around my shoulders. Sorry I'm late, Rachel. My eyes went wide. What was happening? Bro, why didn't you tell us Mr. Shaw was your girlfriend's cousin? My cousin's new husband said, practically bowing and scraping. He was really sucking up. Just moments ago, he was calling me by my first name like my cousin did. This was the first time I'd ever heard him call me sis. The relatives started whispering. Anyone could see that Vicky was someone important. My aunt's expression shifted through several shades of green. Vicky acted completely at ease, as if this was all perfectly normal. He looked at me with a doting expression. It's nothing, really. She just doesn't like being too flashy. I'm the one who insisted on tagging along. As soon as he said that, he pulled out a thick red envelope and handed it to my new brother-in-law. Congratulations on your wedding. I heard someone next to me gasp. Even though it wasn't my money, I felt a pang of heartache. This guy was so stingy with me but so generous with others. My aunt's face immediately transformed into a beaming smile. The relatives, who had been so aggressive just moments ago, were now all friendly and approachable. My cousin's husband was terrified of not being a good host and kept coming over to offer toasts. In my 20+ years of life, I had never seen my mother's lips curled into a smile for that long. I was genuinely worried her face would crack. The whole situation was so surreal that at one point, my mom leaned over and whispered, "You didn't rent this boyfriend, did you?" I wanted to tell her that I had, in fact, rented one, but he'd bailed on me. By the time the wedding ended, it was already very late. I was getting ready to take my parents home. But my mom had a death grip on Vicky's arm and wouldn't let go. "Vicky, dear, where are you staying tonight?" "Mom, there are plenty of hotels. He has places to stay." I shot a look at Vicky, hoping he would take the hint and leave. But the jerk decided to play the victim. "Mr. and Mrs. Chin, it seems Rachel doesn't really want me here. I guess I'll just find some random place to stay." My mom wouldn't hear of it. She shot me a murderous glare. "Come on, come home with us. If she doesn't want you, your auntie does." To my dismay, my dad sided with my mom, completely ignoring my opinion the whole time. There were only 2 bedrooms in the house. When I suggested Vicky sleep on the couch, my mom was the first to object. She practically pushed him into my room. "I didn't realize you were so open-minded, ma'am." I looked at Vicky's innocent face. I was speechless. "Just keep up the act, why don't you?" In the room, I crossed my arms and scrutinized him. "All right, what was all that about today?" Vicky's well-defined hand started unbuttoning his shirt. He kept his eyes on me as he did it. "Rachel, I'd like to take a shower first." His hands kept moving downward. That damn man, trying to seduce me at a time like this. "Wait. You need to explain things first." His eyes were filled with exhaustion, red and bloodshot. He spoke in a slightly weak voice. "Rachel, I drove all night to get here. I haven't slept at all." He leaned lazily against the doorframe, his shirt half undone, revealing a firm chest and the faint outline of abs. Paired with his ridiculously handsome face, the sexual tension was off the charts. I swallowed hard, fighting the urge to pounce on him. I shook my head. "Get a grip, Rachel. Beauty is a dangerous distraction." I grabbed a blanket and bolted for the door. "You can have the room. I'll sleep on the couch." Vicky caught me by the waist and lifted me up. Ah. Keep it down. Don't wake up your parents. I immediately clamped my hands over my mouth. I struggled to get down. The man who had seemed so weak just moments ago was now holding me in a grip I couldn't break. The world spun, and I instinctively wrapped my arms around his neck. My legs clamped tightly around his narrow waist. His long hands cupped my bottom. He even gave my flesh a firm squeeze. The embarrassing position made me want to disappear. Let me go. Vicky carried me over to the bed and sat down. He buried his head in my neck and sighed. Rachel, I'm never letting you go again. Since you can't have the person you love, let's just be together. Honestly, it would be a lie to say I wasn't moved. The high and mighty Vicky was willing to humble himself, to accept that I was in love with someone else. I sighed too and wrapped my arms around him. Vicky, what if I told you the person I said I loved was a lie? Would you believe me? He pushed me back abruptly, his hands cupping my face in excitement. Really? I explained everything that had happened. He got angry and called me an idiot, saying I had broken his heart for a long time. I asked him why he hadn't told me his real identity back then, why he'd come to me for help. It turned out he had been resisting an arranged marriage set up by his family, all for me. He had run to me without a penny to his name. And back then, I had kicked him out. My guilt intensified. Fortunately, his family eventually relented when they saw how determined he was. He successfully returned home. Now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, let's not waste any more time. But you haven't slept all night, wait. Before I could finish, he pulled me close, cupped the back of my head, and greedily kissed my lips. Finally, after my desperate pleas, he stopped. I woke up to the sound of cheerful laughter. I reached out with my eyes still closed, but the space beside me was empty. Remembering I was still at my parents' house, I quickly got up. I opened my bedroom door to see my dad, my mom, and Vicky already sitting at the dining table, enjoying a happy breakfast together. Vicky pulled me down to sit with them. Whose house was this, anyway? Before Vicky drove me back to the city, he had a mountain of gifts delivered to my house. He promised he would be back for a formal visit soon. If I hadn't insisted we had to get back to work, my mom would have made us stay longer. I noticed Vicky wasn't driving in the direction of my apartment. Where are you taking me? Vicky gave me a mysterious smile. I'm taking you to see our future home. I gave him a playful glare. Who said I was going to marry you? Take me back. You're already mine. Where else could you run? Vicky's cheesy grin was almost too much to bear. The car sped off in another direction. Walking into the apartment, I saw that every piece of decor was something I had once dreamed about with him. My nose started to tingle, and I turned and hugged him. Vicky, why are you so good to me? He hugged me back tightly. Because you deserve the best. I kissed him emotionally. He quickly took control, lifting me onto the dining table. His hard thigh pushed my legs apart. I quickly pressed my hands against his chest. No, please, not today. My waist was still faintly aching. Vicky tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his voice already thick with desire. You're the one who started it. He captured my lips. I whimpered, trying to say something more. His large hands roamed up and down my waist, and I quickly surrendered. The battlefield moved from the dining table to the sofa, and then to the bed. By the time we finished, it was already dark. He gently kissed my forehead and told me to go back to sleep. I was completely limp and exhausted, and my eyes drifted shut. When I woke up, I went downstairs to look for Vicky. The man, dressed in a silk robe with an apron tied around his waist, was busy in the kitchen. He skillfully washed vegetables, chopped them, and stir-fried them. For a moment, I felt like I had been transported back in time. He turned and saw me. He smiled and said, "Just a minute, it's almost ready." He wouldn't let me help, shooing me out of the kitchen. Soon, the rich aroma of food wafted from the kitchen. The table was covered with all my favorite dishes. He truly loved me even more than I had ever imagined. I soon discovered that Vicky was an incredibly jealous person. Because of me, Kevin was transferred to another department. The new driver was an older man. One time, I ran into Kevin at the office and was about to say hi. The moment he saw me, he turned and fled. He probably never imagined his former comrade in arms was actually a spy. Vicky kept trying to get me to meet his parents, but I knew our statuses were worlds apart, so I kept putting it off. Besides, if they found out I was the reason he had run away from home, they would probably hate me. I never expected that day to come so quickly, and in such a mortifying way. At home, Vicky was horny at the drop of a hat. We were making out on the sofa when a middle-aged couple appeared at the door. "So this is why you haven't been coming home lately." "I see," his mother said, looking at Vicky with a playful chiding. My palms started to sweat. So much for my image. Vicky put his arm around my shoulder. Feeling me tense up, he said protectively, "Mom, don't scare Rachel." I discreetly pinched him. Was he trying to get me killed? I carefully watched his mother's reaction. To my surprise, she wasn't angry at all. She just laughed. "You haven't even married her yet and you've already forgotten your mother. Rachel, don't mind these silly men. Come on, I'll take you shopping." I must have watched too many TV dramas, because I thought all wealthy families were arrogant and domineering. In reality, they were much easier to get along with than most people. Vicky's mom had me try on one thing after another. Anything she thought looked good on me, she bought. Later, when we were tired of shopping, she took me for a spa day. His mother told me that they had actually known about me for a long time. When Vicky first came back to the family, he threw himself into his work. At first, they were happy, but they soon realized something was wrong. During business dinners, he would drink recklessly, often coming home dead drunk, muttering my name and saying he had been dumped. I felt so guilty I couldn't even look his mother in the eye. But she just patted my hand. "Good job, girl. That boy has had it easy his whole life." This was the first real setback he's ever faced. He drives me crazy sometimes. I'm glad someone finally put him in his place. "Ma'am, the truth is, I've always loved Vicky." "I know. I had you investigated after that. When I found out you didn't mind him mooching off you, I knew you must really love him." His mother also told me that Vicky was the one who had gotten me fired from my previous job. Well now. That jerk had caused me a great deal of anxiety. That night, I confronted him about it. He just kept pecking me with kisses. "Rachel, don't be mad." In the end, of course, we fought and then we made up in bed. Our wedding was held the following summer. My story became a legend in many companies. Always be bold with your career goals, because you just might achieve them. It wasn't until the 3rd year of our marriage that I got pregnant. Vicky looked at me mournfully. "Honey, I'm going to have to become a monk." I snickered to myself. He probably couldn't figure out how I got pregnant when he was so careful with protection. Of course, I had secretly tampered with things. Otherwise, that man would never have wanted me to get pregnant. Later, I gave birth to a little boy. My focus shifted entirely to the child. Vicky even got jealous of his own son. He dropped the baby off at his parents' house and whisked me away on an international vacation. The moment we got into the hotel room, Vicky kissed me impatiently. He took my hand and placed it on his belt. "Honey, help me." He had certainly been holding back for a long time. I obediently unbuckled his belt, and his breathing grew heavier. He kissed me as he carried me to the bed. There was a plate of fruit on the mattress. Vicky reached for a strawberry and placed it in my mouth. Then, he bit into the other half of the strawberry that was still between my lips. The juice dribbled down from the space between our mouths. Our lips met naturally, the sweet taste of the fruit lingering. My arm restlessly traced circles on his broad, firm chest. Vicky's movements grew fiercer. The temperature in the room climbed, and the air grew thick with steam. Two long shadows were cast against the pale yellow moonlight filtering through the floor-to-ceiling window.